Evening, folks. Welcome to another session from the Wise Asylum. Ooh, I've seen it. I can see it clear as a bell. I can now see exactly what these Holy See families are doing and how they're doing it. Oh, this is an important live stream. Now, if you've been following the Faceache, you've probably seen a video. However, you haven't seen what I'm going to tell you tonight, because I'll tell you now, we've already prepped for this. We've got there slowly. We can now see exactly what the bankers are doing here, right now. Oh my God. So that's one we're going to look at. It's important. And also we've got this announcement by Euler that they are now putting Billy Boy Gates' Bovia, or whatever the hell it's called, into the milk, which is interesting because Euler actually supplies all the supermarkets, all makes, all brands. Anything that doesn't look like it's a brand is Euler. And I was looking after I'd seen this earlier in the week, because I've been using Cravendale, which is Euler. And so I had a right good look at these, what were available. everything's Euler. The entire raft of milks, apart from the odd one. So I looked and I found Yo, whatever, and I thought, right, we'll go home and ask the devil. So I did, put it into Google, and Yo Valley do not put this stuff in. So I got some, and to be quite frank, tastes okay. So I'm on that now when I go to the caustic. However, earlier this year, given in mind Coca-Cola have took over Costa, earlier this year, Costa shifted to Arla. So they knew all about this back then. Now, it's not good stuff, this, that's in it. Now, there's 3 components of interest. Silicon dioxide, which is polymer. Now, I've gone on about this before because it's now been put into everything. If you buy those sachets of coffee, it's in it. If you get anything from Holland & Barrett, it's in it. It's in all the capsules, from what I was told at Holland & Barrett last time I spoke with them. It's a polymer, and it goes by E551, which I've discussed before because they're putting it in everything for a reason. And when you look at what they've been doing with this juice, it's actually a big part of a big component of this system that they're setting up. In the humans that are stupid enough to have taken this malarkey. Yeah? So it's important. That's one ingredient itself, and that's important for everything that they're doing. So that's silicon dioxide, a polymer. Then you've got another interesting chemistry that I first came across when, the vapes came out. Well, my brother got one and I thought, bloody hell, it's genius. But then I thought, it's genius, but who's making them? Who's supplying the chemistry in them? There's got to be something dark with it. And so straight away I went looking to see what's in these things. And so where they used to blag everybody is they give it this, well, you can make your own juice and this, that, and the other. Fine, no problem. But you're only messing around with flavour. So you're only actually affecting the flavour. But again, there were 3 pieces of chemistry in there that I focused to. One was polypropylene glycol. The other was medical nicotine. And then this substance that they put the word vegetable before it. And so that was my focus. Very simple, really, because the farmers have been going crazy about this polypropylene glycol for about 10 years, and this is going back, when these vapes come out when I did this. So they'd done the majority of the investigation on this chemistry first, and it's lethal, and what they were bothered about was they were putting in it all the animal feed. Now, when I looked into that, guess what's the worst way you can take that is to inhale it. And of course, it's in the vapes, so it's no wonder people are having trouble. And then when I looked at this vegetable substance with the word what that was propylene glycol at a lesser strength. And they put the word vegetable in front of it, just to obfuscate it. So the double dose of that, plus the medical nicotine, 3 pieces of chemistry, that regardless of whatever you fantasise, how you can actually make your own substance, is garbage. You're not messing with them 3 chemicals, they're in it all. You're only playing around with the flavours. And it does look like some of these flavours that people are messing with, they've come from the wrong place, i.e. China, are in the main, the things that are actually causing the problems. But then, is it the case? Or are they just every now and again putting a bad batch of these other chemicals in, and then plausible deniability, they're blaming these flavours? So this polypropylene glycol is not something new, and we know that it's another major component to this killing of the humans by these arsewipes that Bill Gates fronts. So, and then there's a third chemical in it, which is a funny name. We're going to have a look at it in a minute, but when you're looking at that, and I haven't given it too much research because this week obviously I've been rather busy, but it would appear to be aiming at your ability to procreate. So, you young'uns, they're trying to stop you breeding. Not good, is it? So that's what they're sticking in the milk. Now, it's interesting because, as I said before, I studied Nostradamus for a 4-year period, not consistent, but I kept coming back to it. As I learned more, I go back to it, see if I could understand these quatrains a bit better. And there's one in there that's specific about once they contaminate the milk. Now, most people thinking they were right to type fantastic and amazing occult were going, hey, it doesn't mean milk, it means semen. And I thought, well, fair news, it could do. But when you look at what's going on here today now, he might actually have been talking about milk and not, as these super fantastic occultists want you to believe, that he's actually talking about the semen. Though that's probably been, that were contaminated in the 50s when they started to put SV14 and a plethora of other things like herpes and all these shit in the old shots that your great grandmas or your grandmas were getting shoved up their arse. And of course, there is a special word for it, but I can't remember it to hand. But a lot of this chemistry they were putting in then passes on to your offspring. I can't remember the name. There is a specific term. But the specific these substances that they put in through SV40 claiming it was polio. Oh, we're going to get polio. Actually, was specific to so you passed it on into your, it affected your bloodlines. So, and it's quite worrying this because people just not. Most people are just not catching on to it. If they are, they're rolling their eyes. Oh, another conspiracy theory. Well, you know. And you think you're smart, you are the dumbest pieces of shit going. And it's not good milk, for God's sake. The very substance that every single household, white donkey, uses consistently and tons of it. It is a great way of attacking everybody if people are a little bit smarter and are trying to avoid the process crap. Now, interestingly, there's been a lot of efforts from the farmers this week. So in a sense, it's boosted and bolstered this move for people that are awake to think, right, we need to source this stuff different. Because if you're going to go and source straight to the farmers, you can source your milk, you can source your cream, you can source your beef, your lamb, your chicken, you can source your turkey, you can source all your meats. If you're going to have to make the effort now, which if you're sensible, is exactly what you're going to do, as am I, then this is a great thing because, you know, we can now give them farmers that are not shilling actually the means to continue keeping this crap out of the systems, the cattle, and we can start shopping direct. Again, and I said this at the beginning of this farmers' revolt, we need to start opening shops that sell specifically farmers' goods. But of course, we want farmers that are not shooting the shit out of the cattle. Again, farmers need to start recognising you need to come off these contracts with DEFRA. Which means you need to start to understand this idea of what a person is, as opposed to what a man is. And then you start to realise that the term farmer itself is a legal term and binds you in la land to a contract. So the farmers, if you really want to get a grip, you have a few things to do here. First, you need to get off person. You need to recognise that the term farmer is not a term you want to be using. And then you can get rid of these contracts with DEFRA and the government in general, who are no longer subsidising you. Am I correct? They've made it clear. So this is really the perfect opportunity. If there's enough people awakening up to this nonsense, I know there's a lot that are not, but they're useless anyway. We don't actually need them. Go on, go away, go. They're having another round. Go off you go, and get your 7th, because you're fucking smart, aren't you? Oh, you know, it makes me laugh when I speak to people and they're telling me this, and there's been a few people talking to me about it lately. And it's like, are you really that thick? You're that stupid. One you were supposed to have, and you won't get anything. Yeah, so you keep watching television. I think that's probably the problem. But spiritually, you're defunct. There's nothing to you. You're just a robot, a human sea monster. But this is the perfect opportunity now, because now I am now seeking out a farm we've found, and I'm going to do a journey for a few of us, and I'll do it if I have to do it every week, fine. If I have to do it every fortnight, fine again. Means we're going to have to get freezers, because you can buy milk frozen. They'll sell it you frozen, so you pack that in your freezer. As long as you use it within 6 months, which is what they're suggesting, it's as fresh as what it would be if you got it daily. After 6 months, the fats separate and it becomes a bit yellow. It's still got all its quality, but it looks a bit funny, and people are a bit that way. No, it looks funny, you don't want to touch it. So 6 months, frozen milk is fine. So if you have to buy it in bulk, fine. Now it's expensive. So what? If you're paying that farmer to get his hands off and out of DEFRA, off and away from these shit-ass government imps, pay him. Otherwise, we're going to lose everything. We all need to make a sacrifice. So that's financial, and it means somebody's got to get off their ass, do the travel, and pull in for a few. You know, if you've got a van, you could do it for a whole street. You're not going to have a full street of people wide awake, of course, anywhere in the nation. But you get my drift. This is where we're at now. I'm already on it. It's already happening for me. You know, they've announced that the 26th, Shawnee Boy's at it. It's on. It's already. This is how you have to operate. I'm no longer, you know, when I went in that supermarket and I actually looked at all the other milks, Euler, you're like, whoa! The Swedish tossers, no offence to my Volvo, of course. But it's a Swedish firm. So I'm fuming, livid, but again, it's a good springboard, because now it's made me go, right, that's it, off we go. Let's look for these farmers. Now, there's not that many around here, I've noted. Nearest one is Preston or Longridge. So it's that far down the line now. Wherever you are, you may have to travel a little bit. So if there's one of you doing it for a few of you, it's going to pay off, isn't it? It's going to be, you can buy in bulk, you're spreading it amongst yourselves, you're all going to be sharing at the fuel cost. That's good business. It's good business, and it's how you look after your own health. Because you truly, by now, you can see that you can't put your health in the hands of the murderers in the temples of the Knights Hospitallers, unless you're still a complete fruit bat, which there does seem to be quite a lot, 14.5 million at last count in this latest round. So you're not civilised, you're not fantastic and amazing, you are brain dead people if you're still sucking into that, you know. So let's just have a little look at, well, actually we'll see who's cracked on, and then we'll just go through this oiler. Then I want to just enhance this Kazakhstan bit. You know, we talked about Kazakhstan. I put a report up where the shifting City of London to Kazakhstan. It's full of occult symbolism. Apple, all the religious leaders have already done the deal. It's already set. It's going on. Over there is where it's going. Well, there's a Turkmenistan. Again, another strange thing going on there. All the symbolism, all the building, but it's empty. It's an empty gig. There's nobody there. Nobody living there. But a bit like China, they're spending billions and billions and billions building up these empty cities. Well, I don't know whether you've done any research in your days on the foundlings, the foundling trains, the orphans. And you're only going back to the end of the 19th century into the 20th century when these trains were on the go. Now, we're looking at a reset that time. We're looking at a reset probably from at least mid-1800s up to First World War, when they got rid of a lot of... You see, the whole game for this reset, when you actually analyse this reset stuff, and then start to understand what the Cabbage Patch doll really symbolises, and so much of what people see as, oh, acceptable, but what it's actually symbolising is that when they're doing these resets, the only thing they're after is the children. So what they've done to the adults, the grown-ups, I don't know. But if you're looking at the list and last reset, which is around 1900 time, it's all about them shifting kids everywhere. Across America, across Europe, out of Europe, everywhere. It's just the kids. So where were all the grown-ups? Where did they go? They don't tell us, but they've obfuscated it clearly with the false history that we've been given. And so we can see, if we look at Kazakhstan, we look at what China's been doing, building these cities. There's nobody in. A lot of them are now actually crumbling. But when we look at this banking, we'll start to understand that a little bit more in relation to why banks and economies can work, providing that the money that the banks are lending are creating capital, creating assets, creating employment, creating jobs, etc. So providing that's happening and the banks are lending that money, then things are good, which is why China have been doing what they've been doing. And now we can see what's going on over Kazakhstan and now Turkmenistan, which we'll have a look at a video shortly. They are getting ready for a reset, which means all you adults, grown-ups, are off the table. And of course, if we go from what they're doing now, you can see plain as day what they're doing. It's not difficult to see how they're going to achieve that. The grown-ups are stupid and they're still actually infants and they've done it themselves. Because they were so selfish, they never give any consideration to what actually, if this is an experiment and it goes wrong, who's looking after me? Flea bags. No, it were, I have to because I'm going on holiday. I have to because I was stupid and signed off my employment contract and went on furlough. Not realising that I then had to sign a new one. Because you weren't right smart. You weren't right smart and you were just thinking of yourself, your holidays and nothing else. A very baby boomer trait, if I have to keep reminding you, but unfortunately, that is the baby boomer trait. Ultra selfishness. Me, and a bit of tits and funny. Tittle tattle. They're occupied forever. Give me the carry on, Dick Emery. They're happy. They're happy as a pig in shit. They still went to the moon. They won the fucking war. They're amazing. They don't have to think about anything because they're already amazing. Because the fucking television told them so. And that's pretty much been passed on to my generation who are stupid. There's no balls, there's no bollocks, there's no nothing, there's no gumption. They're just tossing around, taking the dogs out, pretending that they're concerned, but they're not really. They're just getting to watch telly. As long as they can watch telly, and have a can of fluoridated beer. I'm happy, but I'll pretend on Facebook that I'm rebelling. Right, let's have a look who's joined us before I carry on ranting and calling everybody names, because I really shouldn't be doing that, should I? But, yeah, it needs to be said. Oh, Fat Henry says UK. Hey up, folks. Evening, Fat Henry. The Lone Rizzler. Evening, Sean. And all. Evening, Lone Rizzler. Now, if you said Free Rizzler, we'd know what you were doing. Upward says, Upward Dog. Evening, everybody. Good evening, you, Sean. I hope you are well. I'm very well. Thank you very much. Upward Dog. And good evening to you. Me says, sadly on Wednesday, my poor mum lost her life. My head's in bits, but glad you're here. I saw your comment. Unfortunately, I couldn't bring myself to like your comment, if you get my drift. It's not something you like, is it? You know. So condolences there, you old China. But nobody gets out of here alive. You need to heal. Not what you want to hear in the week, but it's the way it is. So condolences to you, mate. Lex says, evening Sean and all the wise Salam evening Lex. Big E, good evening all. Hope you're all well. Good evening, Big E. Benefactor says, hi Sean, let's see what magic you'll pull out of that today. And hello to everyone. Hello to you, Benefactor. Bill Bob says, evening all. Jerry says, hi Sean, all in the wise Salam, just listening tonight. Not a problem, Jerry. Slipknot, alright Sean, alright everyone. Alright, Slipknot, how you doing, mate? Paul says, good evening. Sean, viewers in chat. Evening, Paul. Martin Glasgow says, evening. One and all, evening, Martin. PY Music says, evening, all. Good evening to you, Paul. Mew says, sorry for your loss. My condolences to you and your family. Jane says, good evening, all. Happy December. Good evening, Jane. And it is indeed December. We can now start to celebrate the old Christmas. Not Xmas. Remember who made that up? The small lads. They don't want to even say Christmas. Jane says independent farmers markets need to come back. You're damn right they do. But also at this stage, because a lot of them are strapped and they don't have the capacity to start delivering until they start to get a capacity, I suppose, of people going. Like me, I'm going to go out my way and I'm going to do the run, because milk and all the meats now, you need to source it from the best places you can. You cannot afford, for your own health's sake, to be buying any shit in these supermarkets. Right down to the milk today. And that's a sad state of affairs, it really is. But yeah, I would say next move, but they need to get a bit of capacity of people buying off them to give them some, get that cash flow going for them. Because a lot of them are on their arse and we're for buying up the land. Just like the National Trust took it all in the Lake District. Like the Yorkshire Dales nicks everything. If you look at the map today, Yorkshire has nicked 90% of Lancashire. It's quite ridiculous that they've got away with it, but it's all in a trust. Yeah, them Jesuits, that's Jesuit countries, Yorkshire Dales. That's where they all live, because they're hiding, because they're fucking brave. Anthony says, evening Sean and friends at the Wise Sound chat members. Evening to you, Anthony. Ulick says, hey Sean on the Wise Sound. Good evening, Ulick. Martin says, I've not used milk for years. Cheese and butter is being cut out this week. Can't be too careful. Kerrygold is still made in Ireland and it's still made from organic. Now, but this is another thing, and it comes down to being born idle and lazy like everybody is. If you buy the spreadable, you've cocked it up, because the chemistry in it to make it spreadable is something you wouldn't want. So if you're buying butter, you've got to go back to buying that chunk. And, alright, so it's hard. Well, take it down 5 minutes before you do it, you lazy bastards. So weird. People got so lazy. So born idle. It's quite ridiculous. But Kerrygold, and the packet is still organic. Lurpak, you can't oil it. Lurpak. We'll have a look in a minute at some of the stuff, just at what I picked up this week. You've probably seen it if you looked at my face, but for them that haven't, you need to see it. Because when I changed my milk at Costa this week, they would get, oh, what's that? And we get, oh, have you not heard? We get, no. We get Oilers announced, blah, blah, blah. And they're all like, really? They haven't got a clue. And they work there. And it's like, Jesus, man. Get a grip, people. Sense offender, it's for the calf, not for us. Change is inconvenient. It's for the calf. It's for the calf. What you mean? What? Yeah, that stuff. Yeah, but it is going to have an effect. The third chemical that I can't remember what it's called at this point is a known sterile component. It'll sterilise you. They're putting it in the cattle, and it's specifically set so it's coming through the milk. But I don't know what you mean there. It's for the calf, not for us. So I think I might be on, I don't know whether I'm getting you right there or not. We know that it's going in the cattle. We know this. Farmers is a commercial term. It is, yeah. The highest order. Jane says, use backlash against that. Yeah, absolutely. It's brilliant. Making us look away from what? Well, yeah, there's that as well. But it might be making us look away from something, but also let's look at what's actually happening there. It's quite ridiculous. But yeah, I take your point. I do take your point there. But yeah, you're quite right there, Jane. Muse says, milk is what we drink when we're first born. It's a superfood with everything to help us grow. Absolutely. And us white honkers have been using it for donkey's years, for millennia. Started with the water. Well, yeah, I haven't drunk that water for donkey's years. Your mother's milk, not the calf's. Yeah, but it doesn't matter, does it? It works. I brought mine up on raw. And, you know, you're getting in the morning, and me, well, we were brought up on it. As kids, me and our Paul, and I'd kill him to get the cream on top, and your cornflakes. Oh, man, they were absolutely unbelievable. I'm sure Paul will vouch for that, you know. And we were brought on raw. My kids were brought up on raw. Yeah, there is a link to it with eczema, and yeah, I had eczema, so does one or two of mine, but I wouldn't stop eating meat just for a bit of eczema, I'll tell you. Jerry Sonamate, milk is definitely changed even now it goes off. I worked a milk red as a teen. It ain't milk now. Well, there's a lot to be said for that as well, absolutely. Mew says, Resistance GB had a good video on raw milk the other day about a farmer who'd been selling raw milk for years. There are quite a lot of them, but there's a lot of them have failed recently as well. We do have a local one, but the guy who milked it by hand can't do it anymore. And it would appear the farmer, who again is an old guy, can't actually do it himself. And nobody's coming up, youngsters, are they, being trained in this stuff? Yeah, it's... We need to just ignore these tits called government. Ignore them. Learn how to rebut them. And let's get back to basics. You remember when we were growing up, the government weren't in your face. It was just there, it existed. We all got on with what we got on with. You know what I mean? We didn't care about them. Now all they do is trespass and trespass and trespass. You can't have a shit without a licence. That's next out corner. Because they're trespassing. Youngers don't know any different. We're of an age where we know what it was and what these bastards are doing, which is a trespass. Youngers don't even know what the word trespass means. Plus they're shit scared of their own shadows. You know, if somebody gets boo on telly, they shit themselves, put cameras up outside their ass. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean. They took all the good stuff out. There's no cream at the top of the bottle anymore. No, absolutely there isn't. There is if you get raw, isn't there? But I haven't had raw for quite some time. I know my daughter gets it. One of my daughters gets it. The loaner says, raw is the boy straight out of the cooler. Huh? Cremate, chemicals in, yeah. I mean, it's been going on for a long time with DEFRA. So I've been going through the website. As I say, I've got to update the PHP and everything by the end of December. So I've had to go back through every report and pick up the SEO data so I can transfer it to a new plugin. And so I've been correcting a lot of stuff. Now, the videos I've noted that are no longer available that I'd had in my report. It's ridiculous. So where I've been able to replace them, I've replaced them. And when I came to Mark Purdy, who was a farmer back in 2000, who did an interview with a mate of mine, Tony Gosling, and two other journalists, where he explained that what he had realised is that the CJD back in the day were caused by DEFRA forcing the farmers to put organophosphates on the spines of the cattle every year. And they did it for 3 years, and then boom, CJD. And he goes into a great explanation about it. Now, they killed him. They killed him for doing it. Now, I went onto my page that I have, the website, of that particular story, and the video had gone. Luckily, I found it again, but this time I've just downloaded the video and stuck it up on the website. So if it goes down on anybody else's channel, it's there on the website. I've got a copy. But so many things have gone, it's quite ridiculous. Ridiculous to what degree? To what amount of data is no longer on the internet? Really not good. And so I've been shoving, as I've gone through them, I've shoved worthy ones onto Twitter. I don't like it. I'll tell you what, there's data in some of that stuff I've done years ago that they want forgetting. They want that to be forgotten. Well, no thank you. You're not forgetting, because I'm still here. Because of tax. No, because they were all stupid and they thought DEFRA could tell them what to do. Fucking hell. Pregnant wedgie board. Pregnant wedgie board. Hello to you. They're nothing. The city of London to Astana. They're moving the city of London, to Astana. Absolutely. I did a live stream. I've put a report up on the old website. But Turkmenistan, they're building there, and it's the same kind of stuff, so we're going to have a look. So like I said before, they're going to get the war. We can't stop that. But I'll talk to all you Western boys. When they load your plane up with your missiles and your bombs, Fuck it, get over there, blow the shit out of the game because they're planning a reset over there. Annihilate it. Spoil the game. Nobody ever spoils the game because people don't wake up in time. Blow the living shit out of Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, all of them, because that's where they're getting all their oil from, which is why America's not pumping its oil, which is why Saudi's playing its game. It's all coming from there. They're shifting their entire new base over there. Let's bomb the fuck out of it. Bomb the living shit out of it. You know, and if you get in trouble, all you military boys now, you should have realised by now, your commanders are the problem. As soon as you get in the field, oh dear, look, somebody shot him. It weren't me. Somebody shot him. Otherwise, World War One is going to be another repeat. Off you go, lads, go and get snotted. Don't do it. Come on, wake up, people. Surely you can see the game now. Everybody that's giving you orders from wherever orifice, government, council, police, military, commanders. In the police, it's the inspectors. They're all operating for the 21st degree, Prussian Knight, Scottish Rite, no high judge. All of them. Your inspectors. That's why when I did that, I got arrested that time. All I kept saying was, I want the inspector out here now. Because we need to see these little shits, who they are. We need to know where they live. We need to know where they live. We need to know who they are. These auditors have been collecting all the registrations. 192. We need to know who these no-hire judges are. Because they're working for the small lads. Every single one of them. And all these dumbass coppers they've got knuckle-dragging now that don't know their ass from their elbow, they don't even know what Freemasonry is. They don't even know what Prussia means. They don't know what 21st degree is. They probably think it's to do with when you go on holiday. They've no concept of this, these younger generations. It's our job to make sure this data gets passed down so they know. I'm on a run tonight. Yeah, Stan, that's absolutely right. Jerry says, unfortunately, their brains are mush when it comes to what matters. I don't think they have any brains. The meaning of life, says Ulick. The world is going to change, as my sources say in December. This world is going to change. Well, there's a lot going on over there in the US, isn't there? With the trumpet loading himself up with uber Zionists who want to kill all the Christians and the Muslims. King Cyrus's Trump, the emancipator of the captives. Remember that? They pretend to be captives. They've been the bankers and the moneylenders and the traders forever. They've had every monarch in debt to them. Every single one of them. Edward VII had Candore, Sassoon and Dangor. They were the three small families that Churchill used to decry. Not that Churchill were any different, but he decried those three families for being around Edward VII. The guy that many put up as the architect of the First World War. Edward VII, I'm actually living in his house, at the house that he used to come to and bang two sisters. Yeah? So I think there's a spirit in here that's been giving me some data. You know what I'm saying? That's how it works, isn't it? But it all comes down to the small lads. Whether you like it or not. Whether they're the ones that pretend they are or not, it doesn't matter. As Abe Finkelstein said, they all know. They all know what's going on. They're just keeping quiet in case. In case it works for them. And they get the whole place to themselves. They can rape and shag and do whatever the Talmud tells them they can do to anybody they feel like it. Where are we? It's going to change. Jerry says, I have the man flu now from you. Have you not been getting them shots, have you, Ulick? True, and if I have a good mum, you have lost maybe a trigger not intended. I'm going through it. Yeah, it's... I mean, you should celebrate, really. You know, the pain's only your loss. They've freed themselves from this prison. If you can turn it around and see it in that way, you can see you should never feel sad that somebody passes. They've freed themselves from this prison. The time is done. The game, whatever it were they were here to do, has run its course. They've either failed miserably, which most people have, or they've achieved something decent, or for most people, they've gained even more karma for the next round. So you should celebrate they're passing, and know that you're probably going to follow suit and go back to wherever they are. I mean, it's not my intention to come back here, at least for a few centuries, like, if I choose to come back. But I've got to be honest, this one's been quite a difficult one. I'm not particularly excited about coming back here, I'll tell you that now. Where am I there? So somebody's got the man flu. Yuli says he's a big girl's Blaze. Yep. You big girl's Blaze, Jerry. Where are we there? So he's a big girl's Blaze, is our Jerry. Cos gives it the rocket and the dog shit. Evening, Cos. Jerry, I'll work it off me, Ulick. Few ton of soil shifted in wheelbarrow, sweat it out. And a whiskey in the morning, lad, with some money. Butter is a skill, says me. Martin says, good time to start a mobile quality grocers business. Yeah, absolutely, Kerrygold, thanks, Sean. It's the only one, chaps. Although, Anchor, Lurpite, they're both Islay. Now, there's been some disinformation out as well this week. Because I've seen placards saying that you are also Islay. They're not. And I put it into I asked the devil. Google. Blah, 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 blah. They don't put it in. There seems to be a lot of good farms down Somerset and Gloucester and down the south. So maybe there are some smart guys still down there. I mean, what's happened up north? God's sake, I don't know. So yeah, good time to start quality grocers business. We have to. We don't have a choice. I mean, up here, this was the grower's paradise up north here. Southport and all that area. It's all flat. Why are they using chemistry? Where are we? G is good, says Lex. I believe so, but it just has that tang, doesn't it? Not Lloyd, but dripping. And the best dripping I've sourced, believe it or not, because I've had some from butchers in tubs, it's very sickly. But the best dripping I find is you get it from Asda, and it's in a blue wrapper, and it has a British flag on it. And it tastes superb. And, when I make my stir fries, which I'm going to be able to do it again in a bit now, because I'm on the move, it's delicious. Lloyd tastes good, but I can't stand the smell of it when I'm cooking, to be honest. But dripping. All the way dripping, you look at 70s pictures, no fat people, and we get fat from everything. Breast milk is a superfood. If you're a baby, but I remember, back in the day when I was married and that, if you got a mare full of that after she'd had flea bag, it was disgusting. So I'm not going with that for me, anyway. PY says, indeed. I think he's talking about the milk, the cream. June says raw milk is best. I get it from a local farmer. That's good stuff, June. Does man fight methane? Crikey. We employed government to deal with the business for us, but they flipped it to where we are the business. Yep. All days, no phone, no internet, just Lego, which meant you had to get off your ass and think about stuff, hadn't you? You had to do stuff. May get myself a goat. Yeah. Well, there you go. They're quite easily kept, aren't they, goats? Watch out, though. Africans will be eating them. They like goat's feet. Lex says, Jonas Wunderplanet is the guy on raw milk, but sadly he was knocked off. Right? Pine pollen is the superfood. Well, the pine tree is the same genetics as us. Exactly. So this is why I use this occasionally, just to keep any potential parasites at bay. But every now and again, I might do it for 3 days. That's it. I use that. Now I'll tell you something else I've been taking and trying lately, which is MSM, not MMS. MSM. Sulphur. I I can't say that I've noted any changes so much, but I've certainly noticed nothing negative either. So, but it's only been a week. So pine pollen, yep, anything pine. January man, the Janus 2 faces. I used to collect that, me. Pregnant wedgie board. Evening to you, Sean. I had no idea. I'll have to go look. Pretty flagrant then, again. Wouldn't expect anything less from these creatures. So Sean recently had some great content on subject matter many don't see. Yeah, well, I'll stick that up in a minute for you. Kerry Foods of Black Rock. It nearly £5 for a pound of curry butter. Who cares? Think of your health. Moving in with your squeeze, Sean. Oh, yeah. Squeeze. Oh, right, I get you. Yep, we're shacking up. I can't educate anyone in crypto. Why would anyone trust me? Trust self by £10. See, I was right. They have even changed Suet. Well, I wouldn't know about that, so I don't even know what Suet is. Right, let's have a look. Oh, well, we cracked on with Isla, didn't we? Now, that's the corporate. Isn't that very fitting with the freak that they passed the baton to in the Olympic imagery? Corporate. The bankers. The face on, but robots, the Daleks. So, faces boycott, and I'll tell you, I think that's exactly what's happened this week, because when I went in today, and that Yeo make, I like the pasteurised, I don't like the skimmed, it's got a tang to it. There were a hell of a lot of Cravendales still left on the old thing, so good. I hope the bastards go bankrupt. I mean, because that's the thing, if everybody stopped buying, but this is the thing, if you buy the supermarket's own brand, it's Isla. So Isla is Epatina, Isla Baby and Me, Lurpak, Cravendale, which I've just stopped buying, Costello, Isla Ice Cream, Anchor Butter, Bregot, Koskio, Caroline's Cocken, Kelder and Kiso. I mean, I don't know what half of them are. But Lurpak, look what they did to you through all that thing and they put it up to £6. The cheeky bastards. And this is a Swedish bunch of tossers. No offence to me Volvo, of course. Might be listening. So Tesco supplies own brand fresh milk, cheese, butter and yoghurt from the supermarket chain. Sainsbury's produces private label milk and dairy. This is what Arla does. Asda provides own label milk and other dairy products. Morrison's supplies milk and cheese for Morrison's. Aldi partners with Arla for private label milk, cheese and butter, maintaining Aldi's focus on quality low prices. Lidl supplies milk and dairy products for Lidl's private label. Waitrose, Co-op and Iceland, and also Marks and Spencer's, which you can't really see. Now this is interesting, you might not be able to see it properly. This is that third chemical, and it's called 3-nitro-oxypropanol. May damage male fertility and reproductive organs, is potentially harmful when inhaled, and is a skin and eye irritant. Personal protective gear, including eyewear, a dust mask and impervious gloves, should be worn when handling this product. Operation to wash hands if handling. If accidental eye exposure occurs, rinse eyes thoroughly with water. The safety data sheet contains more detailed occupational safety information. So let me just get this back in order. What's this? So this is what it's called, Bovia. And it's been proven that it's safe for cows, they say, after they buy their own garbage. No, this is a letter to Marks and Spencer's. Somebody sent a letter and he said, we'd like to reassure you that the health and welfare of our cows is a #1 priority. So he's a liar, which is Israel. Marks and Spencer's buys everything from Israel. The cows in our milk pool, anyway, so. Now, so I asked the devil, does Yeo milk contain Bovia? And it says, Bovia is not permitted in organic farming. The main components of Bovia are not approved for use in organic farming. Your Valley Organic does not use feed additives. So Yeo doesn't use feed additives. And I've got it today. I had to get the skim last week because I didn't have any other. I didn't know whether they sold it. I got some today. It's delicious. So Yeo, as an immediate, is fantastic stuff. Yeah, so that letter might be worth you going back to. Mind you couldn't see it, could you? And that's Marks and Spencer's responding with nothing but bullshit and lies. As was Mr. Slick at the court case this week, which we got another adjournment. This barrister. So, like they do, 2 days before, they all bring in this slick barrister, puts in 25,000 ton of paperwork as a bundle, expects you to read it. It was all case law about statutory demands. It's all he put in. It was just garbage on garbage on garbage. Now, I had a chat with this tit before we went into court. This was Preston Court. I have to say I was impressed with the court. I was impressed with the judge. But this barrister Slick, Alex Slick, from Kerr Solicitors in Wigan, the lies just poured out of the mouth. Because we had quite a conversation before we actually went in. The lies just poured out of the mouth. And then when we were in court, I was watching him, and he just had a fucking answer for everything, and it was just garbage on garbage on garbage, and the judge just weren't having it. He just weren't having it, because it was just pure bullshit. And I just looked at him, and I just thought, these guys have got a photographic memory. So they're pulling to the bar people with photographic memories that have ate Black's Law, basically, and remember every bit. Like if you watch Suits, Harvey hired the little shitbag with a photographic memory. But do you know what this photographic memory is a symptom of? Because people don't. They think it's something to praise. A photographic memory is a symptom of extreme child abuse. Sodomy, we're talking about. So, are they picking up these damaged flea bags and putting them in as barristers, as judges, as police chiefs, as superintendents, as judges, and all these kind of people? Are they specifically damaging these offspring because mum and dad are connected to these Masonic orders, in order that they can pull through really seriously damaged and altered, like Keir Starmer, rinsed by Jimmy Savile? I think that's what I was seeing in that court, and I could just see, and I thought, this guy's got a photographic memory. And that's what he is. They're all damaged creatures with suits on. Can you imagine? Not good. Not good, is it? Where am I now? Now that's important. You've seen that face before, you've probably forgot. Yeha Sergio Yehi Palavicini is president of the Italian Islamic religious community and imam of the Al-Wahid Mosque in Milan. Okay? And he's a part of the Holy See families. Right? Now, just to quickly refresh you, after 1066, the House Breakspear ran this country on behalf of the Holy See. Once they'd instituted the Stanleys as kingmakers, Breakspears upped and went to China. The House Stanley became the kingmakers, and they put the Tudors on the throne. So they were funding Henry VII through the Stanleys, and Palavicini operated... the Stanleys operated for the Palavicini. In fact, if I'm correct, you could say that the House Stanley operated directly from the Farnese. Directly. Now, they interceded another front by the Farnese putting in the Palavicini, who then you see, once the Tudors are in place, it's the Palavicini that you see in the background, financing especially Elizabeth I. But also you can see the transfer from Farnese direct to Palavicini while Henry VIII is actually on the throne. So the Palavicini have been embedded on England on behalf of the Holy See for a very long time, and the House Stanley, the Earls of Derby, were their men on Blighty. Crypto Jews, all of them, okay? And they've been running Sunni Islam for a very, very long time also, whether before or at least definitely after the Crusades. Now, this is going to be very important that you get that face in and you realise the might of this family, the Palavicini. okay? Especially in relation to command on what goes on the British Isles, okay? Very, very important. But before we do that, so this is a video about Turkmenistan. Of course, to YouTube, we're using this for educational purposes. We're not trying to be funny or flippant. This is for educational purposes, so we can better understand what's going on the other side of Russia. Because, of course, Russia is being built up as a buffer between the entire European landmass and the Americas, and this new game that they're setting up on the other side of Russia, between Russia and China, which is being protected. They're beginning up with this false idea that Tartaria was the head of the old civilization, when in fact that's bullshit. You study the Tartarians before, they were a cruel race, it was a very small country, and their ultimate enemies, they had two enemies, Moscow and the Rothschilds. So this idea that the Tartarians were in bed with the Russians or Moscow is pure fantasy. You study history and it's clear. The Tartarians were very cruel. They were like a very ancient race. They hadn't grown up yet. Very in sync with the Khazars, that kind of mindset. They had some very tall people. Yet they had two enemies. The Muscovites, as they were then called, and the burgeoning house of Rothschild. They were the enemies of the Tartarians. So there's no this garbage that you're getting fed about Tartaria being the seat and head of this old civilization is to obfuscate the fact that it was pretty much a global civilization, save perhaps for China. I don't think it were over there. Anyway, but there you go. This is short, but this is what's going on in Turkmenistan.
Ashgabat. As strange of a Ferris wheel as this is, even more so a strange-looking TV station, you will find the strange yet repeating cymatic-like pattern in all of this city's beautiful architecture, looking like it was plucked straight from the Star Wars universe. Let's take a closer look at the largest of its kind enclosed Ferris wheel. Those that have ridden on it says the enclosed design makes for quite the lacking view. But that's because I believe it wasn't just made for its view. Not only do you have that same repeating cymatic pattern, take a look at the top of this Ferris wheel. Like the all too familiar antennas from the old world photo. I believe it and all this other beautiful architecture you see scattered throughout this amazing city is all part of a true ether, free energy grid. Like this building from above called the Palace of Happiness. You see those same repeating patterns laid out with such precision, and all of this in a city that is nearly completely empty. If you look at all of these shots, you see very little cars, very little people. Yet those same repeating patterns in a grid, even on the light post. A city empty like this should be ripe with tourists, but in fact it's one of the least vacation spots in the world. But according to our ever-trusting mainstream media, it's a country ran by a dictator that built this city up for his own ego. But with most all Western media, including social media, banned from Turkmenistan, very little is known about this mysterious city. But as I say, I believe it's a city built with tech from the old world, hidden away in the desert. Question everything, friends. Until next time.
Okay, so again, this new architecture, and as we've looked at, and I've wrote this report here, City Illusion, London moving to Kazakhstan. Interesting data here, we know it's going on. There's the live stream we did about it, which I've embedded in the website. Again, this old world symbolism. The name Almaty comes from the Kazakh word apple, but this is a stana, which is an anagram of Satan. Yeah, and it's and leading cultural and commercial hub is Almaty. Almaty meaning apple. So there's reference there to the fantasy story we get in the Bible. You see, because this is another thing as well. We all go on about the apple, biting from the apple. Nowhere in the Bible does it say apple. It says fruit of the tree. Does it say apple? So can you see how thick people are? Especially when they claim to have read the entire script and they still go with this apple. It never said apple. It said fruit. And there's a lot of these points in there where people have this idea that it said this and it didn't, and it never did. And it's not in any Bible, the word apple. And that's the Beatrix Monument. That's a document that we went through on the video. I don't know what's in that video. There's Chatham House. And there's plenty of links in there. And I do... Now we've got the Rothschild Sassoon controlled China with Kandori and the Dangoon. I forgot. Anyway, plenty of links here to really come to terms with this game. And all this is going on the other side of Russia. Genghis Khan's territory. Remember, the Venetians, in my opinion, were operating for Genghis Khan. Or maybe even Genghis Khan were operating for the Venetians. Yeah, then there you've got the City of London moving to Astana. And it all comes in play with this Belt and Road Initiative. So when they pretend that they're against China, it's garbage. Everything is working to ensure this new city, this reset comes into play at the destruction of London or the West, City of London, etc. They're not going to destroy the Vatican because that's now become a corporate system. We've got to wake up to this, people, because this war's coming. But you guys in them jets, once they load you up with that stuff, it's up to you where you go, lads. You just have to have some balls. You boys on the ground, and these commanders are telling you how it is. It's up to you what you're going to do, lads. It's up to you how you play this. Now, again, YouTube, this is for serious educational purposes. It's so important. It's quite worrying. Now, you may have seen it on my Facebook, but it's worth sticking with this because I want to go through something with you. Because this is going to expose to us exactly how this banking system is operating to stifle us, the West, with our own capital, while they install another bank, a very sneaky fucking bank. Sneaky indeed. But this is exactly what's going on, and this is exactly the kind of talk we need to now be talking everywhere. Because this is exactly what's going on. So I want you to listen carefully to what's being said. It's so important. I'll stop it off at a couple of points and expand on certain things. But you really need to get this in your minds, because this is the conversation that needs to be had forward from this point. Because this is exactly what the banks are doing. Absolutely. Okay? So get this clear in your minds, folks.
To frame it, it's UK private debt since 1880. And you can see what happens around the Great Depression. And then suddenly Thatcher comes to power, private debt takes off. Richard, financial sector, a bloated or a dominant financial sector, its effect, in your view, on the real economy?
First of all, it's interesting that the national income accountants, who think a lot about the overall economy, how to measure it and how to, structure the data, they actually have been struggling for decades with the question what to do with the financial sector. Why? Because GDP is actually created by national income accounting by adding up value-added activities, and that's where the financial sector has a problem. What is the value added? And it's been so difficult that essentially the national accounting statisticians have to make up a fictional value and just add it onto GDP and say, okay, we can say that maybe is what the financial sector is doing. Because essentially there is no value added, there's value extracted. And so really you need to subtract it from GDP.
So, what he's basically saying there, and this is a basic analogy, is that the financial sector, as we know it, they make it out to be the be-all and end-all of everything, okay? And that's what's moving to Kazakhstan. Yet, when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, GDP is basically what we as people on the land create, what we generate through our labour. That's the real gross domestic product, okay? It's a domestic product. We're not talking about necessarily exportation. We're talking about gross domestic product. And what he's basically telling you there, that we see this financial system as everything, more important even than us. But in essence, what they do is take from our efforts in taxation, in fines, in fees, in charges, in all these taxes, to fund their bureaucracy that does nothing apart from, because it's now controlling the governments, because all our systems have been incorporated, private-public partnerships, or fascism, as Mussolini described, that system is now in place, and it's fleecing the living shit out of our real wealth, our real capacity to create things, to move things, sell things, buy things, etc., etc. So in essence, this financial system is a parasite. And when they're playing with these figures, these small acts have created this illusion that somehow it's important to us on the ground. It is, in the sense that we need to get rid of it, because without it, what we create is ours. You know, I mean, before Thatcher, everything was national, i.e. energy, telecommunications, British Airways, railways. All these things were nationally owned, meaning that we, the taxpayer, we tipped up a tax to pay for these institutions, which meant we were employing millions of people. All the revenues that were being put in by you, the users of these systems, was going and staying in the economy. It was staying in the economy. We were employing more people employed, more taxes brought in. It's a self-generative system. Yeah? This financial sector, because it's all about shares and stocks, in what is our systems, is how they've taken it. And this is what Thatcher, the whore of Babylon, did. Yeah, I mean, I was guilty of voting only ever once in my life, and that was for Thatcher, when I was 18, and then they announced Channel Tunnel, and I was disgusted, and I've never voted since. But this is what he's saying there, basically. This financial sector is a parasite. We don't give a shit about it. However, the fact that it's trapped us now, it's actually trapped our estates. This is the problem. This is why it wants to take our estates over to Kazakhstan, to Turkmenistan. So you guys, again, that are going to be in this war, that's what you blow the shit out of. But you're going to have to get past Russia first, so we need to get rid of Russia.
Has the finance sector, the fire sector, has it become a cost centre? Because is there a sweet spot where it's actually serving humanity, society, and facilitating business? And when it becomes a profit generator in and of itself, it becomes detrimental to the wider world. Start with you.
Well, exactly. Even the mainstream textbooks in finance, banking, and macro monetary economics will show banks as financial intermediaries. Now, there's a problem with that. It's clear there is a high price that we're paying for this, what should be a humble intermediation service that's being performed, and the salaries that are being paid are, famously very high, which is very strange if they're just intermediaries.
Logically, where does that end up?
I think there's a structural problem, that is the concentration of the banking sector. So in the UK, 5 banks account for 90% of deposits.
5 banks. Remember, folks, once they got the central banking system in and the fiat currencies, they were creating the currency, the thing we say is money. Yeah, and now they've pulled the banking system on Blighty, specifically talking about Blighty, down to 5 huge institutions. And so all our capital, our sweat equity, has been transferred into their promissory notes, debt instruments. Yeah? And we have been fooled to see it as wealth, as capital, as an asset, whether that's a bond, a security, or the actual note itself. This is how they've captured our sweat equity, and we've given it to them.
Which is one of the most concentrated banking systems in the world. In Germany, those high street banks account for 12% of deposits, and 70% of deposits are accounted for by 1,500 local not-for-profit community banks. There's a general tendency when an organization gets large and larger and larger and gets very big, essentially decisions are made without accountability, and the temptations of power strike. Lord Acton famously put it this way, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So when you have very large banks, and only 5 of them dominating the economy, and through the political mechanism and the already financial sector centered political system and political infrastructure, the City of London having a person in parliament that is not elected, the remembrance, and all these rights of the square mile as a sovereign state, all these things.
And the Queen needs permission to go there. Right?
Exactly. And so what you will get is large banks only wanting to deal with large customers in order to do large deals. And that's also where you get the large bonuses. We've done a study on the US, which has the biggest banking sector in the world, over 15,000 banks of all sizes and shapes. The very large banks deal with the very large customers, give very large loans. The medium-sized banks give medium-sized loans. Who is lending to small firms? It is only the small banks. Now, the UK doesn't have those. So the structure has become too concentrated, and what is badly needed in the UK is decentralization. One has to break up the financial sector and have much smaller units, because small banks, community banks, are locally accountable. You can't suddenly do a crazy project or big corruption, because people see what you're doing.
But I think you'd argue for decentralized banking system, wouldn't you? Even though you're a city devotee.
No, without a doubt. But
because it's anti-fragile.
I'd like Richard to comment on this, because I am, and as I'm sure Richard is, but we've had our Metro banks, we've had our Aldermoors, we've had our One Savings.
Challenger banks, all the challenger banks.
Bank. We've had Handelsbanken's done a fantastic job, but it's still tiny.
Exactly. Now, they will stay tiny. The ones that are UK challenger banks and that are profit-oriented. You know why? Because the moment they get a bit bigger, they will be bought up and they will disappear.
See, this is that, isn't it? This takeover game. That's how they do it. Like, they've got this Bank of Davis guy in Burnley. I can't say I know a lot about it, but you would probably class him as one of these smaller banks. And this is what they're saying. You need the smaller banks to lend local, for local projects, for things that are going to create new things, new enterprise that's going to employ people. It's actually going to build structure. Whereas we are at the moment with these 5 big banks, they're demolishing structure because they're sucking all the wealth out. Yeah, that's what's happening. And we don't see this. We don't see the picture properly, so we don't understand what it is that's actually causing these problems.
Exactly what happened over the last 100 years.
Richard, when you think about inequality in the UK, and it's a hot topic, and you think about, as you'd like the banking sector to be decentralised, flatter structure, more resilient, how do you begin to talk to the public or the political class about achieving those goals?
Essentially, if we want to produce something, we need funding, so there's a role for banks in almost everything that's happening in the economy. But what exactly is that role? I'd like to reflect on that. Banks are being thought of as intermediaries, but this is not really what's happening. Banks,
What are they then?
the creators of the money supply.
So you're firmly of the view that banks create money out of thin air?
Yes, well, I produced the first empirical studies to prove that in the 5,000-year history of banking. Banks are thought of as deposit-taking institutions that lend money. The legal reality is banks don't take deposits and banks don't lend money. So what is a deposit? A deposit is not actually a deposit. It's not a bailment. It's not held in custody. At law, the word deposit is meaningless. The law courts and various judgments have made it very clear if you give your money to a bank, even though it's called a deposit, this money is simply a loan to the bank.
That's true. Yeah.
So there is no such thing as a deposit.
So you think it's
loans to the bank.
adequately named then?
So banks borrow from the public. Okay, so that much we've established. What about lending? Surely they're lending money. No, they don't. Banks don't lend money. Banks, again, at law, it's very clear, they're in the business of purchasing securities. That's it. So you say, okay, don't confuse me with all that legalese.
No.
I want a loan. I want a loan.
Yeah.
Fine. Here's the loan contract. Here's the offer letter, and you sign. At law, it's very clear. You have issued a security, namely a promissory note, and the bank is going to purchase that. That's what's happening.
Put it in layman's terms. What does that mean?
It means that what the bank is doing is very different from what it presents to the public that it's doing. How does this fit together? So you say, fine, the bank purchases my promissory note, but how do I get my money? I want, it's a loan. I want my money.
$200,000, right?
I don't care about the details. I want the money. The bank will say, well, you'll find it in your account with us. That would be technically correct. If they say, we'll transfer it to your account, that's wrong, because no money is transferred at all.
It's already in
from
the bank.
anywhere inside the bank or outside the bank. Why? Because what we call a deposit is simply the bank's record of its debt to the public. Now, it also owes you money, and its record of the money it owes you is what you think you're getting as money, and that's all it is. And that is how the banks create the money supply. The money supply consists to 97% of bank deposits, and these are created out of nothing by banks when they lend, because they invent fictitious customer deposits. Why? They simply restate, slightly incorrectly in accounting terms, what is an accounts payable liability arising from the loan contract having purchased your promissory note as a customer deposit, but nobody has deposited any money.
Accounts payable is interesting because if somebody brings a case to court with a claim for money, that claim goes to the clerk, who is the clergy. Okay, he's the ecclesiastical position in the court. Now, the clerk is dealing with the receivables. Okay. He then sets up a court and he appoints a judge, and the judge then is dealing with the payables, who's paying. So the courts are just an extension of this banking system, basically. And so we are failing because we don't understand the banking terms. We don't understand accounting terms properly. I have to say I've certainly expanded that knowledge in this last year, without a doubt, but everything they're doing is based in this deception. And we, because we fall under the spell, because we don't comprehend what's actually going on, the game continues. It just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. And this court case this week we just had, it was very interesting. Very interesting indeed, because clearly this barrister said to me after I spoke to him at the beginning, before the case, he said, well, I'm going to sue for bankruptcy today regardless, blah, blah, the attitude. Proper attitude on this guy. Slick. We just call him Slick, yeah? Little fat fella. Very proud of everything that he was doing and how fantastic we were. Had the audacity to tell me that if you put in a counter-offer and make it clear in that counter-offer that if the respondent doesn't respond with answers to the questions you've asked in that, in the act of, if he doesn't respond, it's not binding. Even when you've put it in the contract, that if you'll take it that if he doesn't respond, that he can't answer the questions, or what you've presented is correct. He actually had the audacity to tell me that's not binding on anybody. The guy was full of shit. Now, it was just ridiculous, beyond belief, that this barrister could pour out such garbage, such bullshit, such shit. The good thing was we were in a Wednesday, which doesn't mean you're under the Talmud. And I quite like the judge. I mean, these judges are tied, remember, by what's put before them. Now, I wasn't impressed with the whole thing because they didn't accept the rebuttal that I put in relation to we need the CEO there. But in relation to how we dealt with this slick barrister, I found to be exceptionally good. He didn't have it, he didn't accept it. But it's basically all just banking. That's all it is.
I wonder how the FCA deals with this, because in the financial sector you're supposed to not mislead your customers. Anyway,
I don't think the answer.
So the banks create the money supply by inventing these claims on themselves, the fictitious deposits. That can be actually positive for the economy as long as this money creation is in line with the creation of new goods and services, implementation of new technologies, and therefore adding value. And adding value in the economy is funded by this money creation. If that happens, and we're talking about business investment, productive loans, productive bank credit, you will have no inflation. These loans can also be serviced and repaid, and you have a stable economy without problems and with low inequality. And so countries that achieve this, that the banks lend mainly for productive purposes, whether it's Germany in much of its 200-year history, or in the last century, the East Asian economies where bank credit was largely for productive purposes, then you find. But there's two more cases. I quickly need to point them out because that's the contrast.
Just clarify that inequality is significantly lower.
Lower, yes.
Inflation is low.
Yes, and you have stable growth.
And the real economy thrives.
Is booming, yes. That's when bank credit creation is focused on productive lending for productive purposes.
Productive lending for productive services. Now, this is so important, people, in what I prompted you with when we went to that. Right? You see, this is how these clever bastards are playing this game. Now, if you've been watching for the last few lives, I've been pointing out to all of you that instead of looking at these mosques as some kind of religious temple, we know that the Muslims believe it to be so, but the Muslims are not the brightest on the tree. Let's be frank about that. They're not applying intellect to their lives. They're applying emotion. These are banks. Okay, now you talk to a Muslim about it, yeah, but we don't charge interest. Okay, so you don't charge interest, but that's because you're operating in that exactly what that guy's just said, which gives you success, and that is you're lending for production. Okay? However, and this is what Muslims need to understand, because they already know it, they just haven't connected the dots. And that is this. These mosques as banks, which is what they are, they might not lend money to their own interest to build a bigger capital base for the bank, because that's what they're doing. But they get their money to do that by extorting you, by forcing you to hand your money over under threat of gods and devils and all this garbage. This guy here, Yahya Sergio Yahe Palavicini, operates for a Holy See family, the Palavicini, okay? In fact, they are actually Islamic. But they're a Holy See family belonging to the system that you guys think belongs only to Rome. This is another bank. It's another move by these bankers to set up a subversive bank by using that process that we've just looked at in that interview about lending for productivity. But here's the kicker. By all sanity, Muslims, by doing this, you are subversive. You are operating in treason in every nation that you're in. You need to understand that you've been moved around into these nations exactly like the older Jews were when they were pulled out of the pogroms. The empire invades a place and installs these pogrom Jews to administer the financial system. And you decry the Jews for that. You guys are being used exactly the same. The empire has moved you around the world, and everybody just thinks it's a mosque. It's a fucking bank. It's a bank, and it's wrapped around a religion to make you obey it by thinking you can't go to God, you can't do this, you can't do that. You can have 72 virgins, you can rape everybody's women and blah, 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 blah. It's a fantasy to cover a banking system that's run by the very same bankers you decry. The same empire that you decry is controlling this bank, the mosques. You are not separate. You are just another branch of these shithead families that rule the fucking world because people can't see past their own nose. They don't have the intelligence to comprehend what it is they're reading for themselves if they actually read it. This is the nonsense everybody on this planet is under. This is why all this happens, because we're all under par when it comes to understanding this game that we're all in. You're supposed to be operating in the image of the Creator, not succumbing to the demands of Shaitan, whatever you want to call it. Because it controls this world. Those families operate for that rebel. Who you all decry. You know, these religions are decrying this entity, not realising every single effort of an essence of your being is building his world. It doesn't matter whether you're a Jew, you're a Christian, you're a Muslim, you're a Buddhist, you're a Hindu, whatever you want to call yourself. You are building that realm. And it's based on your own ignorance and your own prejudices. But ignorance is the key to this. And fear is the consequence. And from fear comes anger and hatred, because you can't see outside the box that you've been put in and allowed yourself to be trapped in. It's like a fart in a bottle. It's where they've got everybody. Boom, 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 but you're stuck in within these boundaries of that little box that you were shoved into when you were a child. You haven't been able to heal yourself, and you're stuck. And you're going to remain stuck until the day you die. Let me remind you who these families are.
What do you see as the biggest challenges in conservation?
The growing human population. Because if where we are, there's nothing else.
And do you have views about what should be done about that?
Can't you guess?
What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order.
Got me running, got me running, got me running, got me running. You ready? You ready? You got me running, you got me running, got me running, got me running, got me running.
I've come to this house of the people to speak to you and all Americans.
got me running, got me running, got me running.
Where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind: peace and security, freedom, and the rule of law.
Got me running, got me running, got me running, got me running. You ready? You ready? You got me running, you got me running, got me running, got me running, got me running.
Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil.
You ready? You ready? Shake it, shake it, shake it, baby. Shake it, shake it, shake it, baby. You got me running, got me running, got me running, got me running. Shake it, shake it, shake it, baby. Shake it, shake it, shake it, baby. You got me running, got me running, got me running, got me running. Got me running, got me running, got me running, got me running, got me running. Got me running, got me running, got me running, got me running. You ready? You ready? You got me running, you got me running, got me running, got me running, got me running.
Every nation in every region now has a decision to make. Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists.
Calling all the shots and I don't need nobody's permission. My own decisions, I don't want no opinions. Calling all the shots and I don't need nobody's permission. My own decisions, I don't want no opinions. Calling all the shots and I don't need nobody's permission. My own decisions, I don't want no opinions. Calling all the shots and I don't need nobody's permission.
Shake it, shake it, shake it, baby. Shake it, shake it, shake it, baby. You got me running, got me running, got me running, got me running. Shake it, shake it, shake it, baby. Shake it, shake it, shake it, baby. You got me running, got me running, got me running, got me running.
My own decisions, I don't want no opinions. Calling all the shots and I don't need nobody's permission.
Shake
until we shake the shackles that they've created, because we shift out of here and into here, nothing's going to change. You see, overthinking comes at the expense of not feeling. You're not feeling your way in this world. You're trying to solve it by overthinking. You're stuck in your mind. That's where they want you. You don't feel your way through this world. And that's how they get you. You're trapped. They've trapped you down in the lower chakras so that the three chakras at your root are negative. They're not operating correctly. And the energy, when it rises right up there, is already off skew. It's not balanced. You couldn't possibly utilise any other chakra correctly. They've fixed you into that fear-based on those three lower chakras. And all the energy that comes out of you then has to stay in here because it thinks it has to think itself out of this. Fear. Fear. When if you knew it, instinct is what keeps you alive. You consider it this way. Every single time there's an issue in your life, you will think yourself to sickness. And when it comes to pass, not a single thing you thought of is even on the table. Yet you've spent all that time in here, instead of feeling your way through it, you would have seen that would have been on the table. You would have been ready for it. Instead, it's shock or pleasure at whatever actually comes to pass. Because you're thinking, you're not feeling. You're not taking part in whatever it is. You're just like a scared rabbit stuck fast, frozen in the headlights of a car that's about to kill it. You know, that's the shackle. Those are the shackles they have. It's a prison for your mind. And that's how they've got you. You've got to get out of your mind because they have control of that. Every fear on the planet is thrown out everywhere for your mind to deal with. You have to get out of jail. Not wait for them to give you the get out of jail card. And you do that by healing yourself from all the traumas you've had in your life, especially those that you suffered in your younger years. And this is the kicker, you see. This is why they do it. Very few of us can remember our lives from 1 to 3. From 1 to 5 even. You might get snippets. You know? And this is why they do it at that time. So that we can't remember. We have no memory of it. We just suffer the consequences. You know, these people have been down here, these ruling elites have been down here for millennia. They know exactly how to operate us creatures because it gets passed down to them. They're not super intelligent. They just get handed it on a plate. And that's the way of the world. That's why the blood lines are obsessed with keeping it in the clan. Because especially the dark ones, their genetics are already centred on that dark craft. Same for the other side. If you want to keep your elevated genetic traits open, you would again want to breed within the same genetics. You know, they call them mudbloods. They call all these different names for it all. But back to what I said last week. If it is so that way back in the mist of time, after Atlantis and Mu, the Lyrians, the human hominids, and the reptilians decided to do battle by creating a hominid, like we are, with both genetics inside, then every spirit, regardless of which side you come from, are dealing with the same traits, the same potentials. You know? And it's quite strange how at the moment you've got this idea, and this is what pisses me off about Ike, he's not really giving it much thought. The RH negative is reptilian. So how do you work that out? If RH negative is not negative of reptile or Lyrian, it's negative of a monkey. How can you possibly come up with that garbage unless you're a small hat? You know, I said before, when I used to do a lot of dream questing, I've seen my source. And I am RH negative. And I can tell you now, where I'm sourced, they are not reptilian. They are humanoids, you might say. I don't like the term human. They are like us. Not reptilian. But you look at some of these Asiatic races with the facial features, the big noses and the chins, and when they laugh especially, you can see reptoid features. We've been had. This reptilian side has gazumped us. And they're doing it right now through these mosques. Because all it is another bank. And the success lies in the fact that they're only lending to their own to expand the assets for their own ends, interest-free. And the banking system, the crown, Queen Elizabeth II, Edward I, bloody right back to Charles II. Every single one of these tossers has been moving us to this position. So I would say up until the Civil War in this country, that was the demarcation line between Christian England and Templar England. Maybe not even Templar. Masonic or Jesuit. Whichever way you want to put it. Because it's clear the Templars originally, when they set up here, were nothing to do with Solomon's Temple. Nothing to do with it whatsoever. Because they created the inner city temple and honoured Mary, the mother of Jesus. What the fuck's happened that people believe around temple has anything to do with this rectangular Solomon's Temple? I don't know. And you call yourself intelligent. You call yourself not of the profane. You are the fucking profane. You are the hubris, lauded creatures to not see through this nonsense. It's the same game, same families, same gig. Installing new banks by demolishing the existing banks. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what I wanted to present tonight. This is real, people. This is what they're doing. There is no black anymore. The spell is broken once again in the Wise Asylum. You know, it's up to us, to you. Teach this stuff. Explain this stuff. Otherwise, it's going to go to one end. You know? The movie's going to go Rambo. Not that I really give a shit, you know, but I know most of you out there do. Because you're not Rambo. Oh yeah, you never wanted to be Rambo. Well, you know, that's the only end, when the only thing on the table is confusion. Uninformed data. When it's informed and it's on the table, then you're heading for debate. You're heading to a conclusion that would bear fruit. And you wouldn't have to be Rambo. Right, so, what have we said? Oh grief, we've been talking a lot. I'll sort of miss any personal conversations you're having, chaps, just to, so we don't go out of founders. Kerry Foods or BlackRock? Yeah, says Jerry. Well, yeah. It nearly £5 for, yeah. Moving in with you, yeah. I can't educate anyone in crypto. Why would anyone trust me? Self-buy £10 seat if I was right. June says they've even changed to it. That's where we got to. I have loads of dripping from my steak in air fryer. Just double check that, because I found something that's suggesting there's high content lead in air fryer use. Now, I don't know how that could come to be, but I put it on the Facebook. Nobody had a comment, so obviously nobody has a clue one way or the other. I haven't got an air fryer, so it doesn't matter at all to me. So I did wonder, well, how the hell is lead being created in an air fryer? Needs more investigation. You'll notice if sulphur is trapped in the gut by an orangey tint round the iris. Smoking makes my eyes bloodshot. When I give up fags, my eyes are white. White as golf balls. I would have thought it were the old magic, but it's not. It's actually the fags, tobacco, that makes my eyes bloodshot, not the old, what I used to, when I used to smoke the magic. It's good to say that. Used to. Says Jerry. Yuli, do you remember that prick Wogan telling us eat flora? It's fuller than Wally. Yeah, I know. Well, Wogan were a twat anyway, weren't he? He was well involved with biggest paedophile ring going. Children in need. I've seen Bob Geldof, the arsewipe, up there lately. He was told that all the money he was raising was going to arm a fucking psychotic dictator in Africa. He did it anyway. He's a mass murdering pig. And I think his wife knew. And I think she told Yombom, who were singer out of In Excess. And because he were mocking him. And I think he knew. And I think he were going to spill the beans. That's why they killed him. It's just my opinion. But I studied enough about Live Aid to know that if any of you give a penny, you were complicit in mass murder. Across Africa. That's why I never give them a bean. Not a bean. Not a nose. Not nothing. I didn't buy anything. Ever. Because it just didn't feel right to me. I enjoyed the gig. The Live Aid gig. But that was it. I never give them a bean. So, should we do a wedgie? Right, buckle up, guys. Volvo SV40, no. V70 D5, mine. Sport. Goes like shit off a shovel. And if you get in your way, it'll crush you. That's why I like them. And nobody wants to rob them. Big E says, methyl sulfonyl methylene, yes, MSM, should be taken a couple of hours after a teaspoonful of vitamin C. Yeah, I'm taking Vit C with it at the same time before I go to bed. Because I've had some problem with my lung where it's been filling up with liquid at night and I'm getting up. The good news is I can get it out. I can pull it out. But, and it's strange because it's like, you know it's coming out your lungs. It's cold when it comes out. It's a degree or two colder than your actual body temperature. Now, it's not as bad as it were. It were quite bad. I was waking up 2 and 3 times a night to empty my lung. It seems to, it's not gone. But the problem is with it, it removes about 60% of your energy. And so I've not been able to go to the gym for 2 weeks. So I've got my blue one on because I've shrunk. So that MSM, I don't know whether it's that's helping it or what. MSM is very good stuff, and I'm taking it with vitamin C as well for the extra kicker. And I'm now taking half a teaspoon of MSM and half a teaspoon of Vit C as well. So, yeah, interesting. I mean, the chemistry I've tried this year, thanks to one who won't be mentioned on here, has been quite interesting, very interesting indeed. And so I thank everybody for their help. It just doesn't seem to have achieved what I'm trying to achieve yet, but we just keep going nowhere. I don't mind being a guinea pig. Cheers, Big E. Marks and suspenders. Legalese may means must affect male fertility. Well, it will. What else will they do it for? Pregnant Wedgie Board says, why does anyone listen to Gates, whatever version of him it is? Because the majority of people out there are fucking infants. They haven't raised themselves above amoeba level in their brain, but think they're somewhat clever. Especially if they've copied well and they have a big car, fancy house, and they used to wear a suit. Because they believe it, you see. They believe the bullshit. It's quite ridiculous, you know. It is ridiculous. I mean, I've always been this way out. It's not something new. I've always been this way. It's not something I've learned. As I've always had an inherent sort of, not necessarily being able to present it verbally, but I've always had an inherent knowing that university, rising up in these systems, is actually going down. You're going down into the pit. You're not fucking raising yourself. You're just raising the glamour that you're surrounding yourself with while you're down here. Good stuff. People pay attention. There's great stuff recently shown on a roll. Well, good stuff. The MK Ultra victims like Storm of Death, he's fucked him. If you watch him, it's like you've got his face, but you can see the character in him it's like off skew. Or is it just me that can see it? It's off skew. It's not him. There's something else going on behind them piss holes. And Uncle Jimmy put it there. This is how Satanists pass it on. You know, Legion is passed on through sodomy. You know, if you're sort of being sodomized by somebody who's spiritually energized by a darkness, that is going to pass right up your ass and right into you, and then it's going to take you on. This is Legion. Where are we? Yeah, Stormer. He's not right. Nothing about him is right. Everything about him is wrong. And his close compadres. It's just wrong. Rudolf Steiner stated that Russia, Slavery, is designated to lead the next epoch. Well, I mean, I put sort of a piece up on when I was going through my website that in 2018 or so, I could see that Russia was about to rise as a new power in the West. And that's exactly what's going on. But Russia isn't Russia. Russia is Bolshevism. Pregnant Wedgie says, looks like Metatron's lost his cube. I mean, and that's interesting when you get into the history of the cube in Mecca. That is the one thing that Muhammad stole from the pagans. Because they worshipped a god called... They used to go around the cube and kiss it. Before Muhammad. And he nicked it. And it's... Let me have a look. I have got it written down somewhere. It was another god that they worshipped with that cube. Where is it? Yeah, I can't find it. Right, yeah. So the Kaaba was actually built for a deity called Hubal. And it was a Nabatean deity from Jordan. And the pagans that worshipped Hubal had the Kaaba stone, and they used to kiss it. You go around it and they kiss it. And that's the one thing. They were Moabites originally, and that's the one thing that Muhammad copied and gave it to Islam. So the Kaaba is actually a pagan stone, and it was dedicated to a god called Hubal. That's what the Kaaba actually is. Nabateans, if you've ever heard of them, and Moabites, yeah. It's quite amazing when when you've actually studied a lot of different histories, and then you read these biblical and Islamic and so many of these new fangled religions. They've so obfuscated lots of different truths from other cultures, from other epochs, and just meld them together. And it must be because if they went too far off track, there'd be no genetic memory of what was in old times. So they have to play with doctrine that has some grounding on earth, as it were, so that the actual eugenetic suit, which is as old as time, recognises a pattern from it. And then they just stick that shit on, which is down to you then, not having the metal to comprehend things properly. Then they've got you. It's fucking clever stuff what they do. It really is clever stuff. But it's even smarter if you can heal yourself and raise yourself up the spiral, off the merry-go-round and up the spiral. Because then you start to see these frequencies. You hear them, you can see them, they can see you. And this is how you expand your viz, as it were. So pregnant Wedgie boy, Metatron's lost it. You're not far off the old game there. Your mum's partner wants funeral procession to end at the lodge. Have you been moved? Have you been shoved into one of them families, mucker? You're free now. You're free. I mean, a lot of people don't realise this, but when you start to go higher in these orders, it takes your firstborn. Doesn't mean it's going to kill him. But that's where it's going when you've had your time. These demons pass through. Not only that, you know, if you're a Masonic and one of your offspring, your firstborn's fucked, it's your fault. You did it. You handed it over without realising when you took a certain ritual. This is how it works, people. And people, you just not take responsibility for their own actions. It's called, it's the curses that you pass down your line until one day somebody will be born into your line and end the curses. Break the chain, as it were. Yeah? Somebody at some point has got to come into those lines and break the karmic chain. So you're not doing yourself any favours. You're not doing your offspring any favours. In fact, you're condemning them. And it's quite sad. We can only change time if we come together as one. Be in the now. That's what we have. That's right, Mew. Absolutely, Baz. Hey, Baz, how you doing, Baz? I nearly forgot then. Cuckoo banking. He's fucked in it. Great vid, that one. Nice one, Jerry. Important cryptocurrency, not digital currency. Yeah, there's a difference, is there? A big one. Jerry says, balancing books, loans or lodgements. Banknotes are good to them as taxable to fund all our problems with it now. My bags are full. I get £700 a month of government. Don't feel bad about paying tax and benefit. Mew's laughing his tits off. June says, government doesn't have any money. No, it doesn't. So I don't have a way here. I'll have to clear that with the Privy Council. Yeah. Credit unions, exactly. I mean, we're going to have to start. I don't know that Banker Dave has sorted it out, but he obviously did something right, or he's joined in the gig. Andy, you know what I mean? Otherwise, they wouldn't let it. They won't let it go. And why the fuck do you need a license from these shitheads anyway? Like I said, if we all decided cat piss and poo, we'd be right. It would be. It would be. Councils of credit unions. Well, that might have been closer to the truth because Lancashire County Council were dissolved in 2008 and taken over. The assets and liabilities were taken over by a private society called the Blues and Twos Credit Union. And then that were dissolved, and it's quite difficult to actually find what it is today. But one particular mind came up with the idea that it's actually IBM running Lancashire County Council. So when they don't fix them potholes in Ward, IBM, which means Grosvenor, one of the wealthiest families on the nation, because they're more wealth in America as a family. They control Vauxhall in London, which is where you get all your intelligence agencies of the world. The Grosvenors are a mighty, mighty powerful crypto family, like the Medicis. I mean, she's so capitalised. Catherine de Medici, through with Nostradamus, so capitalised on the battles between the Catholics, the Protestants, the Huguenots, etc., etc. It was those battles that gave the Medici the power to launch their crypto creed into Christendom. It's a fascinating study when you get back into all the battles post-Reformation. Unbelievable, but missed by so many so-called historians, or at least they're hiding it, they're shilling on it. But it's so interesting. I used to love studying history. Council to credit yours yet? Use of fruct. Article 55 of the 1949 High Convention, UK signatories and ratified in 1980, says Anthony. Thanks, Anthony. I can't tell you why. Would you trust me? I did me, you do as you can. And when they try to take the home, they rely on that note to prove a case, yet they... That's another thing I said to this little slick barrister, Alex, he was called. Curse solicitors in Wigan. Only a little puppy. So he's going on, you have to pay this, that. I said, you can't pay a fucking debt with your debt, son. Yes, you can, but it is. So. I'm just like, you really think you're smart, don't you? But I can see that you're fucked. Really, you should be put down, son. We should take you to the vet and put you down and burn your carcass, because the fumes of it will be detrimental to all living things. Of course, I didn't say that. You keep that quiet, don't you, when you're grown up. But these people are fucked, and they think they're the opposite. They think they're something amazing. What a mess. What a fucking mess. Usufruct, the right to enjoy the use and advantages of another's property, short of the destruction or waste of its substance. Use the fruit. Well, he says apple. Well, nothing says apple in the Bible. Benefactor. And squeeze the juice, which holds the value. Pill pull chicanery, says pregnant wedgie. Failing to disclose is a breach of duty. Yeah, I mentioned that as well. About the failure to disclose the trust as a fiduciary. He just denied everything and came up with all this garbage. CPR Rule 5, Practice 5. Won't have it. Oh no, that's not real, it doesn't matter, you've got to go back to the beginning at CPR and all this. And I'm thinking, fucking hell. See, this is it with barristers, they just have an answer for everything. And if you get a judge that doesn't know his ass from his elbow, that judge is going to shit himself and bow down to that penis. What are we? Means a person being fiduciary for the beneficiary, you have person, but which hat you want to wear? Well, they said at the start of price hikes, it's to curb public spending. They did indeed, yeah. Anthony says usufruct is also carried out under the auspices of war, occupation, and the use of the fruits of that which has been conquered, via force firstly, then subservience. They call it voluntary servitude. Don't be deceived with belief, yeah. Benefactor says, voluntary servitude, are we not act all voluntary? Yes, and it is time to stop it. We are the grantor. Yep. Yep. Sean showed ignorant. It's no knowledge of is the correct term to use. But ignorance of the fact, yep, that carries too. And Cos says, mammoth farts. Go on, Cos. Is it emotional or ignorance? Well, if you're running on emotion alone, you're not sort of computing the data to give you a picture that your mind can understand. If you get what I'm saying. Most people are struggling through best where they can. They don't have time to look at their lives. That's true. And so I was forced to... You're absolutely right there, Mew. Absolutely. That is absolutely correct. People are too busy surviving. Me says, went to doctor last year for blood test, said I need to be on statins. I said no, and went on a carnivore diet just being for blood tests, and blood test was normal. Exactly. That's what happened to Mum, eating food that went into lung. Eating food that went into the lung? What's your FP called, Sean? It's Sean O'Shung. Mew says, thinking of you, mate. Good night, everyone. Night, Mew. Pregnant wedgie boy, good night. Dup. Right, chaps. Thanks for joining. Thanks for taking part, mods. Thanks for modding. And could be a refurbed Wiser Sound next week. We never know. So I'll say as always, thanks for joining, thanks for taking part, and I shall say till the next time.
electronic